The glass in my hand cracked the moment Corvin slammed his fist on the table, and every eye in that hall turned toward me and Senna at once. I had exactly 3 seconds to decide whether to stay silent like I was paid to, or do something that would ruin everything we had built. I chose wrong on purpose. My name is Daniel Hartley. 2 months earlier, a woman with slate-colored skin and violet eyes had hired me through a strange listing to pretend to be her husband. She was Senna Vareth, an envoy from a group of star nations called the Odari Compact, sent to Earth to settle mining rights in the asteroid belt. Odari law did not trust unmarried negotiators. It called them unstable, unpredictable, likely to break under pressure without someone anchoring them at home. Senna needed a husband on paper, fast, convincing, and quiet. I needed rent money faster than I needed pride. It was supposed to be simple. It stopped being simple the night Corvin decided to humiliate her in front of 40 delegates from 6 different systems, and I decided I was done staying quiet. Corvin was a rival envoy, tall even by Odari standards, with a voice built to carry across large rooms and crush smaller ones. He had spent the whole dinner needling Sina about her mining proposal, calling it desperate, calling her desperate, and when she finally answered him with cold precision instead of anger, he changed targets. He looked straight at me. He said I was a prop. He said the compact should nullify her entire negotiation because her marriage was fake, staged, an insult to Odari tradition, and he had proof. He raised a small silver device and said it held a recording, one that would end her career the moment he played it for the council. The room went silent in that heavy way. Rooms go silent right before something breaks. Senna's hand found mine under the table. Her grip was tight enough to hurt. I felt her pulse hammering through her fingers, though her face stayed perfectly still, perfectly diplomatic, the mask she wore for everyone but me. I stood up before I finished deciding to stand up. I said the recording did not matter, because everyone in that hall already knew the truth, and the truth was that Sina Vareth was the sharpest negotiator any of them had faced in a decade, human or Odari, and Corvin knew it too, which was exactly why he needed a distraction instead of an argument. Corvin laughed, but it was thinner than before. He played the recording anyway. It was audio from 3 weeks earlier, from inside Sina's apartment, a private moment neither of us knew had been captured. It was not proof of a fake marriage. It was the opposite. It was me telling her I did not care what her culture expected from a husband, only what she needed from one, and it was her voice, quiet in a way I had never heard from her in public, saying she was afraid she was starting to want this to be real. The recording ended. Nobody spoke. Corvin had expected evidence of a fraud. Instead, he had handed the entire hall proof of something honest, something the Odari elders in that room, old-fashioned and sentimental in their own strange way, clearly respected more than he understood. An elder near the front, a woman named Rethi, with silver markings across her face, stood slowly, and said the recording proved nothing except that the envoy had chosen a partner who spoke plainly, a trait her people valued above almost everything else. She said Corvin had wasted the council's time on a matter already settled in the envoy's favor. Corvin's device slipped from his hand and clattered against the floor. He left without another word, and the hall exhaled all at once. Sina did not look at me for a long moment. When she finally did, her eyes had gone that deep shade of violet I had learned meant she was fighting to keep control of something large inside her chest. We did not speak again until we were back at her apartment, the door locked, the city lights spread out below the window like scattered coins. She asked how long the recording had been sitting on someone's device without either of us knowing. I told her it did not matter anymore, because it had done more good than harm. She said that was not the point. The point was that our private words had become a weapon in a political fight, and weapons could be used again, by someone smarter than Corvin, someone who would wait for a moment when the truth would not save us. I asked her what she wanted to do about it. She said there was only one way to make sure a recording of us could never be used against her again. Make it true beyond any question. Make it permanent. She was not asking me to keep pretending. She was asking me to stop pretending entirely. I told her I had stopped pretending weeks ago, and I had been waiting for the right moment to say so, except every moment we shared had a table full of delegates or a hallway full of guards in it, and I did not know how to say something that big in a place that small. She said this apartment was small enough. It would have to do. I crossed the room and kissed her before either of us could talk ourselves out of it again. She made a soft, surprised sound, then pulled me closer, like she had been holding herself back from doing exactly this since the very first dinner we attended, as strangers wearing rings that were not supposed to mean anything. When we finally broke apart, she rested her forehead against mine and said, "Odari weddings were long and complicated and involved 17 separate blood oaths that would take most humans a week to memorize." I told her I would learn every single one, badly, and probably embarrass her at the ceremony, the same way I had embarrassed her at every gala for the past 2 months. She said that was, by now, expected of me, and she had decided she liked being embarrassed in exactly that particular way. 3 days later, Corvin tried one more move. He filed a formal challenge to the entire mining agreement, claiming Senna's judgment could not be trusted because her personal feelings for a human had compromised her objectivity. It was a desperate accusation from a man who had already lost the room, but desperate men in positions of power can still cause real damage, and this challenge went straight to the highest council on the Compact's home world, far beyond the reach of Earth's diplomats or Earth's laws. Senna barely slept the week the challenge was reviewed. I watched her run the same argument through her head, over and over, rehearsing answers to questions that had not been asked yet, because the one thing that scared her more than losing her position was losing it because of me. I told her the council would see what the delegates in that hall had already seen, that caring about someone did not make her weaker at the table, it made her sharper, because she finally had something worth protecting beyond her own ambition. She said humans always tried to turn weakness into strength with clever words. I said maybe that was because it usually worked. The council's answer came back on a gray morning, delivered through a small projection that filled her living room with pale blue light. A voice, calm and unhurried, stated that the challenge was dismissed. It stated that an envoy's personal choices were her own business, unless those choices caused measurable harm to negotiations, and the mining agreement Senna had built was, by every measurable standard, the strongest deal the Compact had secured with any outside species in over a decade. It closed by noting, almost as an afterthought, that the council found no fault in an envoy who negotiated well and loved honestly at the same time. Senna sat down hard on the couch after the projection faded, and for the first time since I had known her she cried, not from sadness but from the sudden release of pressure she had been carrying alone for weeks. I sat beside her and did not say anything clever, because some moments do not need clever words. They just need someone sitting close enough to matter. Weeks later, we stood in front of a small gathering of humans and Odari together, an odd mix of my co-workers in rented suits and her fellow envoys in formal robes, all crowded into a garden that belonged to neither of our worlds, but somehow felt right for both of us. I stumbled through 4 of the 17 blood oaths and got the words slightly wrong on 2 of them, and Sina laughed out loud in front of everyone, the real laugh, the crooked one she used to hide, and nobody in that garden seemed to mind the mistakes at all. Corvin was not invited, and nobody missed him. After the ceremony, standing alone under string lights that did not belong to either Earth or her homeworld, Sina told me that the recording Corvun had used against us, the one meant to end everything, was still sitting somewhere in a Compact archive, filed under evidence in a closed case. She said someday our grandchildren, human and Odari both, might find it and laugh at how close 2 frightened people had come to losing something so simple as the truth. I told her I was not frightened anymore. She said neither was she, and for the first time since the night the glass cracked in my hand, the room around us stayed completely quiet, not from tension, but from peace, and I understood then that some contracts end when the paperwork runs out, and some marriages only really begin the moment the pretending finally stops.